Hey everyone, it's Kode with Up to Code. Now I get a lot of comments and questions from our IKEA series, the 5-part series that we did a couple years ago. And the question I get is, what are the plywood bases made out of? Like, how did you build them? How did you assemble them? So today I'm just going to show you really quick what they are. This is a base for the island. It's made out of plywood. It's just 3/4 inch standard grade plywood. We determine the heights, the sizes, and all of that. Now, we have separate videos on all of that. So we have part 2 of our IKEA kitchen course that we did. So the link for that is in the corner of this video. So if you want to go there now. We talk about laying it out, installing it, all of that. We have another video on basically how to determine the size and height of your bases. So we have a separate video on that as well. And so that just gives you information on the depth, the height, all the things to consider for doing that. And we actually have another video on just 5 things that you want to consider before even starting a kitchen install. And so you might want to check that out. We touch base on, we touch base on bases too. So anyway, right now I just wanted to answer those questions. Is they're made out of plywood. I used to screw them together. I used to glue them and screw them, but I found that the screws would go in between the plies and push them up or push them down. So now I just, actually what I do is I call this an L-tie. So I pre-assemble this and this is one. This is kind of like a U-shaped piece. I'll show you what that's for, but I keep the top more narrow. I do the side, and then underneath is wider so that I can screw down to the floor. Okay, sorry guys, I'm jumping the gun here a bit. So the first step is to determine the sizes and heights of your bases. So that's why I mentioned those at the beginning of the video. Those are videos you're gonna wanna check out right away. Now after you have those sizes determined, now you can use this image here. This is the one that we used in this kitchen. So here's are just some of the dimensions. Basically, you want to figure out your height, rip a pile of this 3/4 inch plywood, rip those strips on the table saw, get everything you need. Now in this setup, it was minus 25 degrees Celsius and a bit windy, so it was kind of cold. Then we get all those strips into the house. Now, because we know our depths as well, we can go and cut a bunch of pieces for our L-ties, and those are all going to be at 19.5 inches. So we just cut a whole bunch of those on the miter saw. Then I like to pre-assemble the L-ties by using my 16 gauge brad nailer, and I use 1.5 inch or 2 inch nails. I think either one will work fine. And if you want, like if you don't have an air nailer, just feel free. I would just recommend gluing all of those first and then screwing them and by doing that, the glue sets it and it doesn't allow it to shift back and forth when the screw kind of pops in between the different plies of the plywood. Now lastly, we attach those L-ties to the fronts and backs of the bases. And now we have completed bases that now just get leveled, shimmed, and fastened into place. And now you have the perfect foundation for a easy installation and a long-lasting kitchen. What I like about the plywood bases is that I've never used the IKEA feet. I know they're fully adjustable, but for me, I only like to do things once. And so if you can imagine an assembly of kitchen cabinets lowers and you're constantly pushing them in, the back's at a level, you got to get in behind and adjust the feet and then pull it back and forth a million times. Then once your feet are set, you got to hang it on the back rail. It just sounds like a pain. If you do your bases like you see here, they're perfectly level. You level them all at once, and then you just plop your cabinets down and away you go. Now, me, this isn't like IKEA's never sponsored me. IKEA's never even said hello or thank you to me, by the way, which is crazy. But I also don't do things the way they tell everybody to do. So maybe that's a good thing. But when I use these bases, now I don't have to use the rail along here, because once I screw the cabinets down, they're solid as a rock. We're gonna include this photo of the dimensions and everything that we did for this specific kitchen. But you can see that this island, or this corner, is actually just built, it's just built in two. So we just did two, screwed them together, no big whoop. And I'll show you one mistake that I made when I did all this. I put this in upside down. So my narrow part was down. So I just like cut these giant U-shaped things. You can see my shim where I made it level, and I just fastened it that way. So that's bases in a nutshell. It's more just to answer some of the questions that we've had. That's how we build them. We keep it really low key, nothing fancy, but they are just very, very effective, and they'll help your installation. It goes way smoother, way stronger, just so much easier to do. Better for your success. So if you like the video, you like the tips, hit subscribe, because we need more subscribers, people. And thanks for tuning in. And if you have questions or comments, leave them down below. Thanks.